Okay, this is pretty much going to be the last video in the series. I've actually already pre-done a bit of stuff. So it's where you're going to now add the last component in that product section. I'm going to go through that. I'm also going to show you how to, I'll probably actually start with how to make a template before you add everything. And then it's basically up to you to finalise your design, look at your wireframes, adding components if you want. So pretty much by now, don't do what I've shown you until your header and footer is perfect. So that means, because what happens if you make a change now, when you go to put on create another page, you have to make all those changes again and again. So you want to make sure that your headers and footers are exactly how you want them. Okay? And then what you'll be doing is in your index, basically I've added stuff here, I'll just quickly get rid of it. So from the bottom of your slide container, so for the products, to the end of the products, end product container, that should be empty. Leave a nice bit of white space there. What's above that is your header. And some of you, if you want the slider on every page, you leave the slider. Actually, I'm also going to get rid of the slider. I'm going to change this to get rid of the slider. So I've got two there. That should be inner footer. Got that wrong. I'm going to change this to content, just so I know it's my content. Right, and then I hope it gets spelled properly. Yep, content. I go File, Save As, and I save that as my template. It's always handy to have your template there as a HTML file. I go save, and I'm now making the. Oh, so I didn't save that as a template HTML. Sorry. Save as template.html. Now, let's say I'm now making my contact page. I simply go File, Save As. I get my template. I don't re-enter in my account. I create a new file called content.html. Save, and I do a couple of things. I go scroll up to my menu, and I find. Oh, sorry, I called it contact. I'll do that again. Save as. It'll be contact.html. And I need to do things. Up here where it's home, you'll see in the classes it has active. I need to take that off home. I need to move it down to the class here for contact. And what that is that's where in your menu, whatever page you're on, it changes the current page. Okay? And all I need to do is add my new contact page in the middle here. Does that make sense? That's how you now make new pages. Okay? But you only do this step once you've done your header and footer perfectly. Does that make sense? So now we're going to go back. I'm going to close that, save that, and close it on my contact page. I'm going to open my index page again because I'm working on my home page with my products. Now, I've already put some stuff here. I'm going to show you what it looks like first, and some I've already styled and some I'm going to style. So one idea here is member benefits. So just basically, these are just really big font awesome icons. Okay, so if we look at this in the content, it is basically I've got my responsive box, my column container. I've put another container in called mbox with my own class because I want to target that basically of a box within a box. I've got a symbol from Font Awesome, it's already plugged in, and a simple p tag. Okay, and then from there, my styling is I've increased my Font Awesome to 2, so it's a nice big 200px. I've given it a color of white. The paragraph, so the text down the bottom, I've put up to font size 24, colored white. I put margin top of 24px just to give it a bit of white space. And then the box, I've done a background color of red. Now I said I do red just because it's quick for me to demo for you. You should always use hashtags. You should always use hexadecimal colors, the hash. I've applied 15px padding, and what that means is that gives a little bit of separation around the edge here. And then I've applied a border radius of 15px. And again, what that is that gives that nice little finish. Okay, so this is a simple way for you to, if you want to put some content on your page, that's quite simple. The next thing I want to do, my product layout. Now again, all you've got to think about is, first of all, you add your content. So my content is, I want, and I've already done this, so that's my CSS, sorry, here, back here. I want an image, and I want a button that says buy now. But we've now got to style that. So first of all, you put your content in place in the order you want it, then you've got to style it, okay? So now I've done a couple of things here. I've already found my cover images. You need to make them, or edit them at least. And you'll notice I've now added this class called Image Fluid. Again, that's from the Bootstrap library. And what that does is that forces the image to automatically fill the box. Okay? And again, I made sure all these images, all these 6 images, were the same aspect ratio. Okay, so it makes designing really, really easy. I don't have to modify anything. I apply the same rules and all equal. And then, so now on a large device, how many columns are you going to see? 6. 12 divided by 2, so each one is taking up 2. On a medium device, how many in each column? In each row, sorry. 3. In a small device, 2. And an extra small device, 1. So let's look at what that looks like. So this is the kind of thing you've actually got to really think about how I'm going to do it. If I go into design, so on a, let's go into that mode. So on a small device, it's 1. And as it gets bigger, it automatically kicks in. These are called breakpoints. Okay, so I've actually, I need to move that way. And if you reduce this to, this zooms out. Goes out to 3, 6, 2, and then 1. Okay, so depending on which device it is, depending on which size it is. But we actually know how to style this. Now, I've done a little sneaky, I've already pre-filled some stuff for you. I want an image, and I want a stylized button floating over the top. Okay, so I'm just going to save this. So I need to be targeting the box, because I'm going to put a border around it. I need to target the image, and in this case, because I'm having a button over the top of an image, I've added Z index -1. That puts into the background. I've then got a button. I've got a Z index 2. That puts into the foreground. This position absolute and right 25% is used to get it to float in center. So you'll see that in a second. So actually, and we've also got the hover tag that I'm going to use in a minute. So I'll save that and F5. And as you'll see, I don't think that 25% is overly accurate. I've got the center's not perfect, but for the intent purpose of what we're doing here, it's fine. So I now get rid of that. So it's now centered, image is here, and we want to float it. So we're going to move it around. So the first thing we're going to do is I want this to have a border. I want it to be black. I want it to be 1 pixel, 1 px. And I want to be solid. So that's getting a nice border. And I'm going to give it border radius 8px. Control S, let's look at that. So that didn't work. Oh, hang on. I need to apply, it's hidden in the corner. Box, and I need padding 8px. What am I doing wrong here? Okay. The image, so that's the border radius, say padding, show margin, I think. Okay, that'll come in a second. I now want the button. I want that to be, it's actually a simple way of actually, rather than doing right, let's do width 100%. You get a nice wide button. I want it to be height 16px, and I want it to be floating above. So I need to margin dash top. It's 16px high, and I want it 16px into the box. So I'm going to do minus 32px. Yep. There you go, margin. That would help. We might actually just do, I might leave that right. That seems to work better. So I now have a button floating. I've got some things to change. In fact, I might get rid of that height. I think I just might, rather than using height, I'm going to use padding 16px. And then I also want this, my button, to have a border radius of 8px. I'm going to copy that to there because I want that to have the image too. Control S. So you can see how now I'm applying styles to make this look how I want it to look. I've got something wrong. I'm not centering it correctly, but for what we need for this CSS, particularly when you're doing things like floating, gets a little bit more complicated. I'm actually trying to make it less complicated for you for this one. So if things aren't perfectly centered, don't stress it too much. I need to move this up a little bit. I'm going to move that 48px. I'm going to change that just to 8 because I think it's a little bit too big. And now what I want to apply is background dash color. We're going to make that green, nice and ugly. And then border will be 2px blue solid. Let's save that. So we now have a button with a green background. Now what we're going to start to do is we now want to use the hover class. So we want it so when you hover that button, it's actually opposite. And in fact, we're going to make the color blue. We are now going to move these three things down to hover, but I'm going to swap them around. So where it's green, it's blue, and where it's blue, it's green. Have I done that right? I think I have. Yep. Save. And now when I hover the button, it swaps. Okay, so it's called the hover selector. Okay, so this is kind of basically, you now have everything. There's nothing more I can show. It's a case of pulling what I've shown you together in different ways, doing some research. Here I've got a horizontal rule. So if you go into the code here, this is this HR here. And inside the design toolkit, under CSS, I have some examples of different styles for the HR. I'm going to add some stuff on how to style a button too, and a link, so you can basically style it from there. The other thing you want to use is in Bootstrap. Bootstrap. There are some other things you can start to pull in. So we've got a documentation, content, components. If you want buttons, jumbotrons, if you want to have a look at some of these things like pagination, how to show progress, there's graphs, drop-down menus, carousels, call to actions, all that kind of stuff. So you want to add that into it, and it's basically everything I've shown you, it's just using those skills, right? So it's basically now going through, and also something you want to do something specific with CSS. If you want a button in the top left-hand corner of the page that doesn't move, Google it. You'll find different things and play with it. Just keep a track of your changes as you go. Okay, so basically, I'll just end the video now.